Lewis Hamilton's unexpected Ferrari test results have sent shockwaves through the F1 world, hinting at a game-changing shift for 2025. The Formula One world is stretching its legs after a long winter nap, and guess who's wide awake and raring to go? Hamilton. The man looks like he never even hit the snooze button. Early data suggests he has adapted to the SF24 remarkably fast, instantly finding pace and providing crucial feedback that could accelerate Ferrari's development. He's already clocked his maximum 1,000 kilometers of testing for the year at blistering speed, zipping around in last season's Ferrari machinery. Now, before you start obsessing over lap times, relax. They're not exactly headline material at this stage. But with Charles Leclerc also getting some seat time in the older car, it does offer a sneaky little benchmark to compare the two. As you'd expect, Leclerc's 5 years of wrestling Ferrari's prancing horse gave him the upper hand, clocking faster laps overall. Meanwhile, Hamilton's transition hasn't been all smooth sailing. In Barcelona, he had a bit of an oops moment, practically turning the SF23 into modern art. Leclerc, on the other hand, kept things clean, showing that familiarity with the car isn't just about speed, it's about keeping it in one piece. Italian media is abuzz with reports from Maranello, suggesting Ferrari engineers have some reservations about Lewis Hamilton's braking style in their ground effect cars. Unlike his laid-back dynamic with Mercedes in recent years, Ferrari's team didn't tiptoe around the issue. They went straight to Hamilton, pointing out that he'd need to tweak his corner entry technique if he wanted to extract the car's full potential. Interestingly, this isn't the first time Hamilton's braking habits have raised eyebrows. Mercedes boss Toto Wolff flagged the same issue last season. Speaking to Amos, Wolff candidly explained, "Lewis tends to brake late and hurl the car aggressively into corners. The car and tyres just can't cope with that. Sometimes driving at 98% is more effective with these cars, especially in qualifying." Wolff's comments were more than just technical analysis. They subtly explained why George Russell outpaced Hamilton in qualifying, finishing the season with a commanding 19-5 record in their head-to-head battles. Meanwhile, Ferrari shifted focus to the future, hitting the track this week to test Pirelli's all-new 2026 prototype tyres designed for the sweeping car design regulation changes on the horizon. It marked the debut of this particular slick tyre iteration, and while the lap times weren't a perfect reflection of raw qualifying pace, they still offered intriguing insights. Beneath the surface of those runs, there were hints of performance trends that could shape the pecking order when the new era kicks off. First, it's important to note that the Ferrari SF24 used in the recent test wasn't the same machine Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc raced towards the tail end of last season. This was an SF24 mule, a modified version designed to help Pirelli simulate the expected aerodynamic characteristics of the 2026 F1 cars, which will feature significantly reduced downforce levels. To achieve this, Ferrari opted for their lowest downforce setup, pairing the Monza-spec rear wing with the front wing configuration they last used in Las Vegas, essentially their leanest aerodynamic package from 2023. They also adjusted the suspension to complement this aero balance. However, the underfloor remained untouched, which is notable because ground effect cars like the upcoming 2026 models derive around 50% of their downforce from the floor. This omission alone meant the car wasn't operating anywhere near full potential. According to Pirelli, these changes slashed the SF24's downforce by roughly 20% compared to the spec Ferrari ran late last year. McLaren also joined the test, with Lando Norris topping the timesheets thanks to a 1-minute 15.21 second lap, noticeably slower than last season's Spanish Grand Prix benchmarks. Lewis Hamilton, meanwhile, clocked a respectable 1-minute 15.93 seconds on Tuesday. Sure, when you stack that against Leclerc's pole time from last summer, an impressive 11.73, it seems underwhelming, but context is key. The drivers weren't gunning for outright pace. Add in the fact that the prototype tyres featured different sizes, compounds, and even sidewall profiles compared to the 2024 rubber, and suddenly those lap times make a lot more sense. What neither Ferrari nor McLaren could mimic during the 2026 tyre tests was one of the most intriguing elements of the upcoming regulations: driver-controlled adjustable aerodynamic components. These will allow cars to shift seamlessly from low downforce on the straights, maximizing top speed, to high downforce through corners, enhancing grip. This dynamic aero flexibility is a game changer, and without it, the test runs offer only part of the picture. When you compare the recent test lap times to those from the 2024 Barcelona Grand Prix weekend, they fall somewhere in between. For context, Lewis Hamilton topped FP2 with a 1-minute 13.26 seconds, while Lando Norris clocked the fastest lap during the race race itself, with a 1 minute 17.11 seconds. The FIA's head of single-seater matters, Nicholas Tombazis, shed light on expectations back at the 2024 US Grand Prix. He acknowledged that while the 2026 cars will lose a significant chunk of downforce, teams will still deliver lap times comparable to current standards. The key difference: how those lap times are achieved. Instead of brute force aero grip, it'll be all about efficiency, blending clever aero tweaks with mechanical grip, making the racing not just fast, but hopefully a lot more thrilling. When the June 2024 deadline rolled around for finalizing the 2026 car design regulations, the FIA wasn't exactly throwing a victory party. Unconvinced that they'd ticked all the right boxes, they decided to extend the consultation period until the end of the year, aiming to fine-tune the rules and address lingering concerns. There's been an increase in performance of the car by probably about 50 points of downforce, revealed an FIA official. This boost has significantly closed the gap between the new 2026 cars and the current generation. Where initial projections showed a downforce reduction of around 40%, it's now trimmed down to just 15%. In terms of outright performance, lap times are edging remarkably close to what we're seeing from today's cars, delivering on the promises made back in June. Visually, the new prototype tyres are a stark departure from the current design. Gone are the pronounced sidewall bulges, giving the tyres a sleeker profile. While the 18-inch wheel rims remain, both front and rear tyre dimensions are being scaled down. The front tyres will be 25mm narrower, and the rears will lose 30mm in width. Even the overall diameter is shrinking, dropping from 720mm to somewhere between 705 and 710mm. Although the test wasn't about chasing flat-out lap times, Hamilton's performance certainly raised a few eyebrows, especially among those who expected him to struggle against his teammate. Both Ferrari drivers logged almost identical lap counts, with Hamilton setting the quicker time at 1 minute 15.93 over 87 laps, while Leclerc wasn't far behind with a 1 minute 16.06 after 86 laps. For anyone doubting Hamilton's adaptability, this was a timely reminder that the old dog's still got plenty of bite. Interestingly, Hamilton seemed far more at ease behind the wheel of the 2024 Ferrari than he ever did during his last 3 seasons wrestling with Mercedes's unpredictable machines. The Maranello design, with its less aggressive anti-dive suspension setup, appeared to suit him perfectly. Even though the car was running with significantly reduced downforce compared to the spec that raced just weeks ago, it was clear, just from watching him, how much more confident he felt under heavy braking and through the corners. Hamilton had been vocal with Mercedes about what he believed was the root of their design struggles, often pointing fingers at the cockpit position being too far forward. That diagnosis didn't exactly hold water, since the Ferrari's seat is positioned even further forward. Yet, despite this, Hamilton looked like a driver reborn in the scarlet red. The real difference? Suspension geometry. Ferrari's setup seemed far more forgiving than the stiff, unforgiving designs Mercedes had been churning out over the past few years. This allowed Hamilton to lean back into his natural braking style, a technique deeply rooted in his karting days. It's that aggressive, instinctive approach to deceleration that has been a hallmark of his racing career, and it's no surprise that with the right setup underneath him, he's back to looking like the Lewis of old. But lurking in the shadows is a nightmare scenario, one that would make even the most die-hard Hamilton fans shudder. Imagine Mercedes finally cracking the code on these ground effect regulations, emerging as the dark horse with a car that's firing on all cylinders. To twist the knife even further, picture Kimi Antonelli winning on debut, sending shockwaves through the paddock and leaving everyone questioning what could have been if Hamilton had stayed. All right, enough daydreaming. Reality's already dramatic enough in Formula One without adding extra plot twists. Has Lewis Hamilton finally found the perfect car with Ferrari, or will his struggles with ground effect cars continue in 2025? Let us know in the comments. Until next time, goodbye for now.